Hi, we're ManilRohit, brothers and artists. For us, art is a carnival, a puzzle, dream, dilemma, fantasy, and even political. It often comes out of a desire to clarify and pull the veil off something that is there but not apparent. Art is an expression of the artist's heart and soul. And for that very reason, it's always difficult to define and categorize. Only one thing is certain, you know it when you see it. Sometimes, even that is not certain. We are going to take you into the world of some of India's boundary-pushing artists to know how it all started for them, what inspires them, what troubles them, where does their energy come from, what keeps them going.
In short, we meet the artists behind the art on the new Creative India presented by Absolute Music Series.
On our maiden voyage, contemporary Indian artists Gaurav and Avinash used technology to give expression to their artistic vision through animation, music, sound and light. The effect is synthesized, psychedelic, transitory, anything but the ordinary. For some, art translates into making. For others, curating. We visit a museum like no other, born from this man's passion for anything that gets us from point A to point B. Manish is a designer who wears many hats. Let's find out how he does that and which is his favorite.
Gaurav and Avinash are best defined by their imprint blot or basic love of things. They don't like to be constrained in their choice of medium and push the boundary of their art with sound, music, video, animation. From their initial transformative audio-video acts to merchandise, their repertoire even extends to designing video games.
I still don't know how to categorize you.
I guess our name is suggestive of that kind of confusion or accommodation of many types of things. So the name Basic Love of Things essentially is about exploring different types of ideas and different types of mediums.
It's always been ambiguous right from the start. Something to the extent of one should do things just, for the basic love of things. The two of us make the core.
So this has been your motto right from the beginning, to do so many things, or it evolved?
Well, a bit of both. I think in the beginning when we started, there was and there still is a pretty strong focus on electronic music and especially electronic dance music as the core of it. But with the name like that and with the kind of background we have, it was kind of inevitable that it would become more than just that. You'll see a relation to that in almost everything we do. We came into Blot with very different kind of life experiences and work kind of backgrounds. So I'm kind of from a design background. I studied at NIFT, I studied fashion, and then I did some toy design and some product design.
When we first met, I was a law student.
Lost student or law student?
Or both. Lost being a law student for a while until I decided to do music full time. So that's how it started. I've been a DJ since I was 15 years old.
Okay. But you've been able to combine, together art, music, videos into an amazing genre which is difficult to define. How big is your canvas?
I guess we don't paint only on canvas. One of the things that I think we have together is the fact that we like to explore things and we like to learn and we like to develop things over time. So that in effect gets reflected through the work that you do over the years. And I think mediums of work are only just that. They're only mediums. They're not expression itself, or they're not the intent to express itself. We've done music videos, performances, art projects, digital art, exhibitions, which maybe. So it's a lot of stuff. It just seems like a lot, but if someone was, for example, making only music for 7-8 years, he would make a lot of music, right? And we decided to do many things with that time.
Being a sort of an audio-video act also gives us access to a large sample of people, say for instance at every gig. So the medium for us is always transient, sometimes it's sound, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's, nothing. But unfortunately, life doesn't work that way, so you need to zero in on a couple of things that one needs to consistently do over a period of time, and that for us is music, video and art. Music has a sort of much wider appeal than all of the other things we do.
What exactly defines your style?
Gaurav and me are quite very different people. We've definitely tried to maintain a different vibe for both things.
I think mostly we're always in the process of discovering what we like. Obviously, as two separate individuals, we both gravitate in different directions, and we sort of try and celebrate that diversity.
Are you able to find the right kind of audience for such a creative genre?
We find one person a year, to be entirely honest, but that one person then sticks around with us for the next couple of years. The pros and cons of being so multidisciplinary or allegedly multidisciplinary, and as opposed to being like focused on one thing. So it certainly has its cons, but at the moment, for us, I think the pros will always outweigh these cons.
There's obviously a large audience and a very increasingly very fast-growing audience for electronic arts or electronic culture in India right now. So there's definitely enough people who follow our music. Like over the last 7 years since we've been around this, we've seen a very different kind of culture emerging. I think it's a great time to be an artist in India.
You guys are doing music, you guys are doing art,
Merchandise.
merchandise.
There's a video game coming up.
If we were to say that, okay, let's do an album, it can't only be a music album. At some level, it could be many more things. So I think this time we're trying to explore what that could be if we were to publish something this year. One of the key things we're working towards is something we're calling a graphic novel meeting a music album to start with. And for that, we basically written a story and then we started illustrating it. And it was turning out quite well. And actually, this place you're at right now, team here kind of felt that the story that we were working on was quite engaging, and they were looking for a kind of a starting point for a new game. And we decided, since we kind of anyway work together, it might be nice to just collaborate on that.
What do you call the game?
Well, it's called right now. It's called Antarik Sanchar. Kind of translate literally into transmissions in space. Space transmissions in space, and it's a story set in 1920, and the main character is inspired by the great South Indian mathematician Ramanujam. And the general idea of the game is to kind of present the kind of life that we're going through, in a sense that there's a lot of conflict between what we do in kind of present times, but also kind of our parents. Like my mom's a Bharatanatyam dancer, for example. And so that's kind of the intergenerational conflict that we're trying to kind of talk about. But it's a very whimsical, funny game. And also, obviously, electronic music.
So it's all interconnected. The music album, the graphic novel, and the video game.
Yeah, and some merchandise. Like for example, there are some.
Anything else?
There are some toys and that we're working on.
Can I see that?
So I used to be a toy designer before, so I kind of hooked up with some of my earlier people I used to work with. So this is a small mathematical toy. It's actually a very old toy, so you can calculate like 4 into 9 is 36 here, and it's like an intelligent monkey.
Smarter than us.
Smarter than us.
That's not me, at least.
So we're kind of building on some old tin toys which were around in the 1930s and trying to bring them back a little bit.
That's a pig.
It's an Indian
that used to be a pig.
So this, for example, is a small pig which normally has a cover, but in our game, the main character is an inventor. And this is actually one of the inventions. So when people come to our gigs, when we launch the game and launch the book, they will get like free gifts, and they can also buy his experiment. These two are the visuals with which the whole game and graphic novel project started. I have an interest in botanical illustration. And
Yeah, you got these organic forms, tentacles.
yeah, so little, slightly beautiful, creepy kind of things. The story is also essentially about us at some level, because the main character in the story has something called synesthesia. So he's kind of cross-wired his audio and visual senses in his head, which is at some level what we try to do. I mean, I wish we were, but we're not synesthetic. But we try to induce that kind of atmosphere at our gigs with music and videos.
Your work is so complex. How do you initiate the whole process?
Well, normally I pray to Gaurav first.
And I
Then he starts some work.
I would like to see that visual right now.
It's actually, to be entirely honest, it's the other way around. I pray to Avi.
The manner in which we work isn't based around rehearsals, practice. that kind of more something you might associate with, say, bands in some ways. We kind of lead very independent lives. Distinctly, there's a journey that we both individually having, and Blot at some level is also about us essentially jamming together at some level. We meet up
At gigs.
at airports and gigs, and we figure out what we need to do, and part of that obviously lends itself a bit of a raw kind of edge to the gig and to the performance, and I think that's something that a lot of people over time also identify with us.
Is your process totally separate? Like you do your own music and you do your own designs, or do you?
We don't really have a defined process, which makes it really hard to say, okay, you know, I'm going to start something tomorrow. Usually everything comes together like about half an hour before we're supposed to submit or before the deadline, but it kind of surprises us. Mostly it surprises.
Blot and your canvas, all of these things have been certainly transforming constantly. And you've really, redefined the whole proverb that jack of all, master of nothing. Forget it. Jack of all, master of all.
Nothing, master of nothing.
Hey, jack of all, master of all. The new proverb for you guys.
On Zolo Hive New Artist of the Week, as ManilRohit, we bring alive our art full of fun, love and color to create a bespoke theme for the Zolo Hive.
Our work is inspired by a lot of popular culture and the carnival. So that's essentially the theme of the work on the phone. We use a lot of fans on the lock screen. There are 3-4 fans, and they're like, you pull them, and then they start rotating.
All the icons we've designed with like vibrant colors like fluorescence and greens. Essentially, that's not what you get.
So like the user has to be really playful and wild.
One of our most special creations is our own car, the holographic love machine. Yes. And we seem to have found an extended family here.
We're at the Heritage Transport Museum here in Manesar. Let's meet the man behind it.
Let's go.
India's most passionate collector of vintage transportation, Tarun Thakral set up the Heritage Transport Museum to shower tender love and caring attention to everything that can move you from point A to point B.
Tarun, tell me, how did this happen? I mean, you've got to be nuts about cars to think about this space.
I had a huge collection and I wanted to put it to better use so that more people can come and enjoy it and, see what India's transportation history has all been. So that's exactly how this thing came about. If all the other countries could have a transport museum, why doesn't India have a transport museum? The museum itself is divided into multiple galleries because it's 4 floors and over 100,000 square feet. So you have the pre-mechanized gallery, a railway station that has been recreated, aviation gallery, two-wheelers, rural transportation, maritime, everything.
So most of these collections, do you think they also are, in a way, contemporary pieces of art?
If you look at the indigenous vehicles, the Pat-Pat, the Chakra, the Marutha or the Jugaad, I personally find there's a lot of element of art. A couple of vehicles, what we've done also is contemporarize them even further. Not only, typically if you look at it, they're highly decorated. So they use a lot of that media to...
And Indian elements of motifs and paints
motifs. And even, those things hanging around, chains hanging
All the
around.
jazzy colors.
And so they make them very vibrant. They definitely are pieces of art in themselves. Although I must share one thing with you. We have a vehicle which is hanging out here. There's a car. That was the only car. It's a 1962 Chevy, which didn't have an engine. And I didn't want to fool, the visitors out here by just parking the car without any engine. Suddenly we thought, let's actually give this to an artist and tell him to do something interesting. Because we wanted a bling factor in the museum.
Which would be your favorite piece of collection, which is closer to your heart?
They're all my favorites, but I guess my emotions go up to the first car that I've ever owned, the 1932 Chevy.
You have it here?
Yeah, it's there on display.
Which is your rarest possession over here?
Okay, in terms of rarity, they're all rare today.
Yeah.
But if you want to specify...
Rarest.
There's a 1934 Buick limousine, 7-passenger, which belonged to the Maharaja of Ayodhya. That is unrestored so far because we want somebody to adopt this car for renovation. And the other one that we have is a 1957 Ford Fairlane, which is the world's first retractable hardtop car. There are very few cars. In India, I think just has one more car.
How do you think an effort like this can transform the museum culture in India?
Indian museums are basically dead body museums. Nobody wants to go there. What we are trying to do out here is, number one, make sure that the museum remains very dynamic. Things change here every 3 to 4 months. So you see a display here or a vehicle here which is not going to be there. Otherwise, why would you guys come here again? Whenever any child comes here, something should spark in him, some spark of creativity. If we achieve that, we will be successful. So it's more targeted to just, spark that creativity. I hope you guys are sparked out.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
A bit too late, but better late than never. And I think it's an awesome thing you have put.
Tarun, I think your collection is not complete as yet. There's something that you still haven't seen, and I'll take this moment to share this with you.
What do you call this?
This is called the holographic love machine, spreading love and smiles.
It's our own personal art car that we painted.
Wow.
The public art car project that we had done.
Wow.
It's got a great,
When is it coming to the museum?
you let us know.
I think it'll
It's just a
add
drive
beauty
away.
to it.
Yeah, we'll be more than happy.
Psychedelic colors, quiche motifs inspired by Indian heritage make up the palette for Manish Arora. With humble beginnings that transformed to a global fashion powerhouse, Manish has collaborated with various international brands and his designs have been worn by a number of international superstars.
If I were to ask you to choose between the two, an artist or a designer, which would you choose?
Both can be one person, no? I don't think I'm an artist or a designer. I just do what I feel like. And people give you names, but I think I'm an honest person as far as my work is concerned. It's really to make myself happy. Unfortunately, I was growing faster than the audience, how they were growing while I was showing in India. So they would perceive my clothes in a different way. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I knew that I was not that. So I never took comments seriously by press in India. Because I knew what I was and where I belonged. If you think of shock value, the word, then probably there are other designers who are far more ahead of me than I am.
In terms of shock
France,
value.
Yeah.
So how does the madness of India inspire you, which we see a lot in your works?
Well, I'm Indian, so I cannot forget that. I think I have all the responsibility to show India the way I want to, which is kind of a sense of a freedom too. But at the same time, it makes you more responsible because there is nobody else, so it is kind of only me who's showing them what India can do for fashion. So sometimes it can be an advantage, but at the same time, it also is a big disadvantage because I never had somebody from India to look up to or follow their path.
You have to search your own way.
Yes, I still am. People don't want another guy another designer who's like them. They want something new, and that could only be if I could take my past with me, which is Indian culture, but putting in such a way that it can be understood by everybody. So I might use techniques like Zardozi or other Indian techniques of embroideries or fabrics, but the visual that I'll put to that would be easily understood by everybody. I mean, just last season I did clothes inspired by candies and cupcakes, and which is a theme which anybody can understand. But what was new for them that it was all the cupcakes and donuts were made in Zardozi. So it was kind of
An amalgamation.
yes, taking the Indian techniques, but the visualness of it has to be understood by everybody.
I see sequins, prints, cutouts, swatches, gold. What are your favorite techniques that you use in your work?
All the Indian techniques are my favorite techniques because it's so complicated. And I like the complication of the whole process. So it's not a single technique that I can point that, okay, that's the one. But overall, all the traditional methods of embroidery and weaving, I think, treasure that we have. So every season I pick on a couple of them and try to use them in my
Do you like to layer them or do you like to keep it like singular?
No, of course I like to make it more complicated. The kind of work I do, it has a very thin line in becoming ridiculous, and you need to know where exactly to stop.
Exactly.
So that is the more challenging part, is when I'm making the clothes of the inspiration.
I feel a lot of times your collections overlook the whole wearability factor.
They're fun,
Yeah.
but a lot of times not so wearable.
Well, it also again is, I think, very Indian of saying that wearable or not wearable, because actually if you look at my shows, and 95% of my collection pieces in the show we get orders on. So yeah, and it's true. In fact, I sometimes think that even when I made the dress which was moving for the carousel dress, which became very famous.
The circus dress?
Yeah, we sold them. We sold about 15, 20 of those.
In the whole process, I think you also changed the fashion sense in India, and the fact that you constantly push the boundaries.
I think that's a part of every creative person's job. I think to every season go further. And for me, the minute I finish my show, in 2 days I start hating it, because and I think that's a good sign, because only when you don't like your last work is when you look for something new. Otherwise you can get stuck.
Your shows are not just a ramp walk, they're more like a performance, a theatre happening. Is it important to you feel that draw a line somewhere and then just make sure that a performance or something doesn't overpower the collection?
No, for me most important is the clothes. So even if you look at my shows, they might be called dramatic or over the top, but in the end people will talk about the clothes. Clothes are the hero as far as my shows are concerned. The idea is when people come to our shows or people wear our clothes or somebody sees somebody wearing our clothes, it should bring a smile on them, and that is the aim behind the brand. You
do fashion, you do merchandise, you do accessories. How big is your canvas? Where does it end for you?
Well, there is no end, because there's more and more new ideas coming in the market. But yes, I have done, I think now about 55 to 60 collaborations already, which is of each various kinds, from carpet to watches, to coffee, bed sheets, bed linen, furniture, motorcycle, car. So it's kind of endless, but I still want to do more. I want to go to bigger things probably in the future.
What are you on?
Right now? No, in general life? Happiness.
How do you think you've transformed as a person over the years?
I think I'm in the process.
Still in the process?
Yes. It's not done yet.
And that's a sound of good things to come, and we're all excited by his amazing designs and all the love that your work and your brand spreads, and we hope to get more of it.
Next week on Absolute Music Series presents The New Creative India.
We travel into the world of designer Anita Arora and her handcrafted outfits, strongly influenced by the textiles and dressing style of the man on the street.
We meet street artist extraordinaire, a man, a mystery, an enigma. You see his work but don't know what he looks like. Obsessed with typeface, we try and unmask Daku.
And we meet artists such as George Sebastian and understand all that is possible with just a plain sheet of paper.